For 33 years, I cooked the same Christmas Eve dinner with the same quiet hope. And on the 33rd year, I was told I was no longer needed. That realization didn't come during an argument or a dramatic fight. It came quietly through a phone call that stripped me of something deeper than pride. It stripped me of purpose. My name is Margaret Hale, and this is the story I never thought I would tell. Before I continue, let me ask you something. From where are you watching this video? Please tell me your city name in the comments. And if stories about real emotions, family truth, and quiet strength speak to you, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Now let me take you back to that morning. I woke up on December 24th at exactly 6 a.m., the same way I had for decades. My joints protested as I pushed myself out of bed, my slippers scraping softly against the cold kitchen tiles. The house was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that settles in when you live alone long enough. On the dining table lay my neatly written grocery list: a rib roast, honey-glazed ham, cinnamon cookies, pecan pie, the same menu I had prepared every Christmas Eve since my son was a boy. His name is Daniel Hale. Daniel is married to Laura and they have two children, Evan, 13, and Lily, 11. Every year I told myself maybe this year will be different. Maybe they would come early. Maybe they would stay longer. Maybe I wouldn't eat alone, but deep down I already knew. On the side table in the living room sat framed photographs I dusted every morning like a ritual. Daniel as a child with missing teeth. Daniel on his wedding day, smiling proudly. Laura in her white dress, whispering in my ear, "You'll never be alone as long as we're family." A promise that aged poorly. I dialed Laura's number. Voicemail. I tried again, still nothing. On the third call, she answered. "What do you need now, Margaret?" Her voice was sharp, impatient. "I just wanted to confirm dinner time," I said softly. "I started cooking early. Daniel always liked." "We're not coming," she interrupted. "We told you last year and the year before that." My fingers tightened around the phone. "But it's Christmas Eve," I said. "The children, they're fine," Laura snapped. "They don't need this depressing routine. Your house feels old, sad, full of memories that weigh people down." I felt something crack inside me. "Can I speak to Daniel?" I asked. A pause, then my son's voice came through, colder than I had ever heard it. "Mom, this has to stop. Stop. Every year it's the same emotional pressure," Daniel continued. "Laura's right, you've already lived your life, let us live ours." "I'm your mother," I whispered. "And I'm a father," he replied. "My responsibility is to my family now. You've done enough, it's time you rest." The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, as if holding on might undo the words. Behind me the oven timer beeped sharply. The roast was burning. I pulled it out, staring at the blackened surface. The smell of scorched meat filled the kitchen, mixing cruelly with cinnamon and sugar from the cookies I had baked the night before. I sat down on the cold floor, and for the first time in years I didn't cry. I just felt empty. 33 Christmases. 33 dinners prepared. 33 hopes quietly buried. As church bells rang outside and neighbors laughed on the street, a question formed in my mind, one that frightened me more than loneliness ever had. Why had I allowed this for so long? And just like that, something inside me began to wake up. But I had no idea what the next few days would reveal, or how one accidental message would change everything forever. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay awake in the master bedroom, staring at the faint water stain on the ceiling, one I had ignored for years because repairs cost money, and money was always needed elsewhere. The heater hummed quietly on its lowest setting. I had learned long ago how to live small so others could live comfortably. Beside me was the empty space where my husband Robert used to sleep before cancer took him 12 years ago. This house was the last thing I had left of him. Or at least, it used to be. As the hours passed, memories surfaced one by one, uninvited but relentless. I remembered a cold February morning 14 years earlier when Daniel had shown up at my door with red eyes and shaking hands. He had just lost his consulting job, his company collapsed overnight, and he was drowning in debt. "Mom," he had whispered, holding a foreclosure notice. "Laura's pregnant. We can't lose the apartment. Please, I don't know who else to ask." I didn't have the money, but I had the house. Within a week, I signed papers that turned my fully paid home into collateral for an $85,000 loan, money that went straight to Daniel. He promised to pay it back within 2 years. He hugged me tightly, crying into my shoulder like the boy he used to be. 14 years later, that mortgage still wasn't fully paid. Then came more requests. When Lily was born, Laura arrived with a gentle smile and careful words. "We want the children to go to a good private school. It's an investment in their future, you understand, right?" The tuition was $800 per child. My widow's pension was $950 a month. I took a night job cleaning offices at 62 years old. My knees ached, my back stiffened, but every month I transferred the money without fail. When I struggled, Laura always said the same thing. It's temporary, Margaret, just until Daniel gets promoted. The promotion never came. Or maybe it did, but somehow, the needs always grew. Around 3 in the morning, I got out of bed and walked to the old wooden desk in Robert's study. I pulled out the shoebox I kept hidden in the bottom drawer, the one filled with bank slips, receipts, and transfer confirmations. I spread them across the desk like pieces of a puzzle. $3,200 for a new car, $4,800 for a family vacation, $2,700 for Christmas gifts, $1,500 for extracurricular programs. Year after year, my hands trembled as I added the numbers slowly. More than $200,000, that was the cost of being needed. By dawn, my chest felt tight, not from sadness, but from clarity. Later that morning, December 28th, I was making chamomile tea when my phone buzzed. A message from Laura. My heart jumped instinctively. Then I read it. Daniel, don't forget to tell your mother to transfer $2,000 for the New Year's trip. We're short after Christmas. And tell her not to be dramatic, we know she has savings. These old women always say they don't. My fingers went cold. It wasn't meant for me, but there was more. I already told your sister that your mom exaggerates the loneliness thing to manipulate us. Old women love playing the victim. If she refuses, the kids won't ski, and it'll be her fault. I sat down hard on the chair. Then came the sentence that shattered something permanently inside me. When she's gone, we can sell the house. A nursing home will cost less, and the kids deserve the inheritance more than supporting an old woman who complains all the time. The tea went untouched. I stared at the screen until the words burned themselves into my mind. This wasn't anger. This wasn't frustration. It was planning. I looked at my reflection in the dark kitchen window, a 75-year-old woman who had aged quietly, sacrificed endlessly, and believed usefulness was the same as love. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What happens when I stop being useful? I didn't cry. Instead, I stood up slowly and dialed my son's number. And when he answered, everything began to change. Daniel answered on the third ring. What is it, Mom? His voice was sharp, rushed. I'm in the middle of something. I received a message from Laura, I said calmly. My own voice surprised me. It didn't shake, it didn't plead. Silence. I think it was meant for you. Another pause, longer this time. I don't know what you're talking about, he muttered. I know about the nursing home, I continued. I know about selling my house after I die, and I know you told Evan it wouldn't matter if I lived somewhere else. That did it. His breath became audible through the phone. Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion, he snapped. Laura was just thinking ahead. You can't live alone forever. Thinking ahead for whom? I asked. For me or for my house? Why are you making everything so dramatic? Daniel replied. You're old, you need care, we have responsibilities, jobs, kids, bills. The bills I've been paying, I said quietly. Mom, and the $2,000 for the New Year's trip, I added. Silence again. When he spoke, his tone had changed, cool, defensive. If you don't want to help anymore, just say it. But don't make us feel guilty for living our lives. We've done enough for you. Enough, the word echoed in my chest. I see, I replied. Goodbye, Daniel. I ended the call before he could respond. For a few minutes, I just stood there, phone in my hand, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. Then I walked into the living room and sat in Robert's old armchair, staring at the family photos Laura hated so much. I realized something frightening. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was awake. That afternoon, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Helen, my late husband's sister who lived in Denver. A woman who had always spoken her mind, whether people liked it or not. Margaret, she exclaimed. Is that really you? For the first time in decades, I told the truth. I told her everything, the money, the loneliness, the message, the call with Daniel. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. Why did you allow this for so long? She finally asked. Because they're family, I whispered. No, she replied firmly. Family doesn't plan your disappearance. Family doesn't count your money before you're gone. Her words hurt because they were true. Come to Denver, Helen said. Get away, think clearly. You don't have to decide anything now, but you need distance. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Daniel, this time his voice was syrupy. Mom, listen, I overreacted earlier. Laura explained the message. It was a misunderstanding. Why don't you come over tomorrow? We'll talk calmly. An invitation 8 months too late. No, I said. What do you mean no? I mean no. You're being unreasonable. Goodbye, Daniel. The next call came from Laura herself. Margaret, dear, she began nervously. There's been a terrible mix-up. You always take things the wrong way. Do I? I asked. Her tone shifted. Let us be honest, you're old, you live alone, a nursing home makes sense, it's practical. For whom? For everyone. For you, I corrected. She hung up. That evening, someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Evan, backpack on his shoulder, Daniel waiting in the car behind him. I opened the door. Hi, Grandma, Evan said awkwardly. Dad said we should talk. He spoke, reciting words that weren't his. I saw it clearly. The manipulation, the conditioning, the quiet indifference being taught. When Evan finally said, Mom says old people belong in homes, something inside me hardened. Go home, sweetheart, I told him gently. When the door closed, I leaned against it and exhaled. That night, I slept for 7 hours straight. And when I woke up the next morning, I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. But peace never lasts long when control slips away. And soon my family would come back, not with apologies but with demands. I woke up on December 30th later than usual, 8:30 a.m. For years, my body had been trained to rise early, driven by worry. Did Daniel need something? Did I forget to send money? Was there another expense I hadn't anticipated? That morning, none of those thoughts came. The quiet felt different. I showered slowly, letting the warm water ease my aching joints, and for the first time in months, I wore the blue blouse I'd bought and never used. It felt strange, almost rebellious, to dress nicely when no one was coming over. I set the dining table properly, not out of habit but intention. Porcelain plates, a clean tablecloth, coffee brewed strong, fresh toast with olive oil. I ate sitting down, not standing at the counter, rushing through life like an afterthought. After breakfast, I picked up the phone and dialed the bank. I'd like to cancel all automatic transfers from my account, I said. The representative paused. All of them. Yes, every single one. An hour later, I stood inside the branch, signing papers that reclaimed my money, my money. The manager informed me that someone had recently tried accessing my account online. Do you know who it might have been? I did. I secured everything. Then I paid off the remainder of the mortgage on my house. 14 years of anxiety ended in one signature. Outside, the winter air bit my cheeks as I walked home, stopping at the local market. I bought flowers, good cheese, fresh vegetables, a bottle of red wine. For how many? The clerk asked. For one, I replied. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel, what did you do? He demanded. The bank said the transfers were canceled. That's correct. You can't just stop. The kids' school, our rent, your responsibilities, I said calmly. Mom, Laura's pregnant again. I closed my eyes. Congratulations. That's it, he snapped. Don't you care? I care about myself now. He accused me of being selfish. I reminded him of the $200,000. He went quiet. That evening I cooked a real meal, not survival food. Dinner. I ate slowly, music playing softly, and for the first time in years, no one asked me for anything. Later, I planned my next day for myself. And that was when I realized something terrifying and wonderful. I was free, but freedom has consequences. And the next morning, my family would arrive at my door with a suitcase. The knock came at exactly 9 in the morning, 3 sharp taps, confident, expectant. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach tight, not with fear but with recognition. Laura stood there holding Lily's hand. Daniel was behind them, gripping a medium-sized suitcase like proof of good intentions. I opened the door but didn't step aside. Mom, Daniel said quickly, forcing a smile. We need to talk. Laura's eyes were red, as if she'd practiced crying in the mirror. Lily avoided my gaze, twisting the sleeve of her coat nervously. Hi, Grandma, Lily whispered. Hello, sweetheart, I replied, brushing her hair back gently. Come in, it's cold. They entered, and for the first time in years, I didn't rush to the kitchen to make coffee or set out cookies. I stayed where I was standing, steady, waiting. Laura perched on the edge of the sofa like someone preparing for an audition. We talked all night, she began, and we realized how badly we've treated you. Daniel nodded quickly. It's true, Mom, we've been selfish. I glanced at the suitcase. And that? I asked. Laura hesitated, then smiled tightly. It's a solution. I waited. I'll move in with you, she announced. Just temporarily, to take care of you, keep you company. The words hung in the air. Daniel jumped in. I'll stay at the apartment with the kids. With the baby coming, this makes sense. You won't be alone, Mom, and we'll all save money. Save money, there it was. And who pays the bills? I asked calmly, another pause. Well, Daniel said, you have your pension. And my savings, I added. Laura leaned forward. Margaret, think of it as family helping family. I'll cook, clean, manage the house. With my money, I said. That's not fair, she protested. I smiled faintly. Explain it to me. Laura opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. You're getting older, you need someone. Do I asked. Or do you need a place to live rent-free? Daniel's face hardened. Mom, stop twisting things. 13 years, I said quietly. That's how long I've been supporting your family. 13 years without complaint. 13 years without thanks. Laura stood abruptly. So you're just going to abandon us now? The irony almost made me laugh. Lily looked up at me. Mom says your house smells weird, she said softly, but I like your cookies. I knelt in front of her. Thank you for telling the truth. Laura snapped. Lily, don't. It's fine, I said, standing again. Children see more than we think. I turned back to Daniel. You're adults, figure it out. So that's it, he asked. You're saying no? Yes, Laura's face twisted with anger. You'll die alone. I'd rather be alone than used. She grabbed the suitcase. Don't expect us to come back. Good, I said. Neither do I. They left. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt final but not tragic. Liberating. That night, as fireworks cracked faintly in the distance welcoming the new year, I raised a glass to myself. For the first time in decades, I wasn't afraid of tomorrow, but independence has a price. And soon my son would try one last time to make me pay it. The first days of January passed quietly, almost suspiciously so. No calls, no messages. No sudden emergencies demanding money. I filled my time with simple things I had neglected for years. Long walks, real meals, quiet mornings with books instead of worry. I even rearranged the living room, moving the armchair closer to the window so I could watch the street come alive each morning. On January 2nd, I kept a promise to myself and went to the public library. It had been more than 10 years since I last stepped inside one. Back then, my life revolved around school pickups, bank transfers, and waiting by the phone. Now the building felt like a doorway into a life I had forgotten existed. The librarian, a warm woman with silver-streaked hair, handed me a stack of brochures. Book club, memory workshops, beginner computer classes, weekend walking groups. I signed up for 3. That same afternoon my phone rang. Daniel, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th call I answered. Mom, he said quickly. Things are bad, I stayed silent. Our landlord raised the rent, he continued. Without your help we can't afford it, the kids might have to change schools. I exhaled slowly. You're 45 years old, I said. Solve your own problems. Don't do this, he pleaded. It's only $300 a month. $300 I can spend on myself, he scoffed. On what? On living. Silence. You've changed, he muttered. Yes, I replied. I finally did. You're choosing money over family. No, I said firmly. I'm choosing dignity over exploitation. There it was, the last weapon. If you don't help us, he warned, we'll stop calling, the kids won't see you anymore. I smiled sadly. I've already lost you, I said. This just makes it official. I hung up. That afternoon, I attended my first book club meeting. 8 strangers welcomed me like an old friend. They asked my opinion. They listened. No one asked for a single dollar. For 2 hours, I felt human again. That evening, as I walked home, I realized something profound. I hadn't just stopped being useful, I had started being respected. But consequences don't always come immediately. Sometimes they arrive quietly in the form of silence. And sometimes silence reveals exactly who is only there for what you could give. The silence stretched on. Days turned into a week. Then too, no calls from Daniel, no messages from Laura, no updates about the children. At first, the quiet felt unsettling, like waiting for a storm that refused to arrive. For years, my life had been defined by responding to their needs. Without that constant pull, my days felt strangely open. So I filled them. I went to the book club every Tuesday. I joined the walking group on Saturdays, where a cheerful woman named Grace always matched her pace to mine. We talked about everything except our families, and I was grateful for that. One afternoon over coffee, she asked, "So what made you decide to start living for yourself?" The question caught me off guard. I said slowly, I finally realized that being needed isn't the same as being loved. Grace smiled. That lesson took me 60 years. We laughed softly, 2 women who had given too much for too long. That night, as I returned home, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. My house didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. The silence no longer pressed against my chest. It wrapped around me gently like rest. Then one evening my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Mom, it's Evan. My heart skipped. Dad doesn't know I'm texting you, the message continued. I just wanted to say I miss your cookies. I stared at the screen, emotion tightening my throat. I miss you too, I typed back. You're always welcome here. There was no reply. Still, that one message told me everything I needed to know. The children were caught in the middle, raised on comfort, taught entitlement, but still capable of kindness. It wasn't their fault, but it wasn't my responsibility to fix their parents' mistakes. That realization settled into me quietly, firmly. I had done my part. Weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail, not a card, not an apology, a formal envelope. Inside was a notice from a lawyer, Daniel's lawyer, requesting a family discussion regarding my assets and future care. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. They hadn't come back for me, they had come back for what I owned. And this time I was ready. The letter sat on my kitchen table all morning. I didn't open it right away. I made coffee first, watered the plants, read a chapter of my book. When I finally slit the envelope open, my hands were steady. It was exactly what I expected. A family mediation request arranged by Daniel's lawyer, framed as concern for my future, my health, my safety. Carefully worded sentences about estate planning, assisted living options, and shared decision-making. Not a single word about love, not a single apology. They wanted control, legal control, now that emotional manipulation had failed. I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. Then I picked up the phone and called someone who wouldn't sugarcoat the truth. Helen. She snorted when I read the letter aloud. Of course they did, they're panicking. What do? I asked. You protect yourself, she said firmly. And this time you do it properly. That afternoon, Helen helped me contact a lawyer, my lawyer, not Daniel's. A woman named Sandra Lopez, calm-eyed and sharp-minded, who listened without interrupting as I explained everything. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. They've been financially exploiting you, she said. And now they're attempting to formalize it. I felt a chill. Can they force me into anything? No, she replied, not unless you let them. Within an hour we had a plan, a new will, a power of attorney assigned to me alone, legal documents blocking any decisions without my consent, and then came the hardest decision. What do you want to do with the house? Sandra asked. I looked around her office, then closed my eyes. I want it protected, I said, for as long as I'm alive and beyond. When I left her office, the weight I'd carried for years felt lighter. That evening, Daniel called again. This time I didn't hesitate. We received your lawyer's letter, I said before he could speak. All communication goes through my attorney now. What? He snapped. Mom, that's extreme. So was planning my life without me. He accused me of being manipulated. I smiled. No, I finally stopped being controlled. The next day, the lawyer's request was withdrawn. No explanation, no goodbye. Just retreat. That night, as I locked my front door, I realized something. They weren't angry because I'd changed. They were angry because I could no longer be used. And that meant I was winning, but closure doesn't always come with silence. Sometimes it comes with a choice, one final, unexpected choice. The call came on a quiet Sunday afternoon. I had just returned from the walking group, cheeks flushed from the cold, when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me not to. Hello, Mrs. Hale, a woman asked gently. This is Dr. Reynolds from St. Anne's Community Center. Your granddaughter Lily listed you as an emergency contact. My heart tightened instantly. What happened? I asked. She's fine, the doctor reassured me. There was a minor incident. She fainted during choir practice. We believe it was exhaustion and low blood sugar, but we couldn't reach her parents. Of course they couldn't. I'll be there, I said without hesitation. At the center, Lily sat wrapped in a blanket, sipping juice. Her face lit up when she saw me. Grandma, she whispered, relief flooding her voice. I held her hand, feeling the small warmth of it. I'm here, sweetheart. Laura and Daniel arrived 20 minutes later, flustered, annoyed more than worried. Laura immediately began scolding Lily for not eating properly. Daniel barely looked at me. On the drive home, Lily sat in the back seat quietly. At one point, she spoke so softly I almost missed it. Grandma, can I come stay with you sometimes? Daniel snapped. Lily, don't start. I met my son's eyes in the rearview mirror. She asked me, I said calmly. Silence followed. That night after they dropped her off, I thought about the question for a long time. Lily wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for favors. She was asking for safety. The next morning, I made a decision. I called my lawyer. I want to set up a trust, I said. For my grandchildren, education only, controlled, no access for their parents. Sandra didn't sound surprised. That's wise. And one more thing, I added. If Lily ever needs a place to stay, I want it legally clear that my door is open. That afternoon, I invited Lily over to bake cookies, just cookies, no lectures, no guilt. As we worked, she looked at me and said, You're not sad anymore. She was right. I was. I had chosen boundaries without abandoning love. But I knew this piece wouldn't go unchallenged. Because when control is truly lost, people panic. And Daniel and Laura were about to realize this time there was nothing left to take. The confrontation I expected came quietly. No shouting, no dramatic arrival, just a phone call 2 weeks later. Daniel's voice was tight, controlled. "We heard you set up a trust." "Yes," I replied. "You went behind our backs." "I protected my grandchildren," I said. "Something you should have done yourselves." Laura's voice cut in sharply from the background. "You're poisoning them against us." "No," I answered calmly. "I'm teaching them security without strings attached." There was nothing left to argue. They had lost access not just to my money but to my control. After that call, something unexpected happened. They stopped contacting me entirely. No threats, no manipulation, no guilt, just absence. And surprisingly, it didn't hurt. My days filled naturally. Library mornings, book club laughter. Walks that ended in coffee with friends who liked me for my company, not my wallet. Lily came over twice a month. We baked, read, and talked about school. Evan texted occasionally, short messages, polite but distant. I never pressured them. Love doesn't need force. One afternoon, as I set the dining table for myself, I realized something profound. For decades, I had prepared meals for people who never showed up. That day, the table was set for one, and it felt full. On Christmas Eve the following year, I didn't cook a feast. I made soup, warm bread, a simple dessert. I lit a candle and sat by the window watching snow fall quietly over the street. There was no bitterness in my heart, only clarity. I had loved deeply. I had given generously. And when giving turned into erasing myself, I had finally stopped. Some people confuse kindness with weakness. I had learned the difference. That night, as church bells rang again, just like they had the year everything changed, I raised my cup and whispered a quiet promise to myself. Never again will I buy love with sacrifice. Never again will I mistake being needed for being valued. And for the first time in 33 years, Christmas didn't feel empty. It felt honest.